Chapter 9. Days had passed and Zelda was feeling more confident. She could consistently knock Link off of her, she could escape several of his holds on her, and she could run. Though official training had been reduced to 4 days a week now rather than daily, nightly training in Zelda's room continued unhindered. She'd begun to feel like a warrior princess, though she knew she was far from one. Link had given her some free opportunities, instances where she knew he was purposely leaving himself open to her. But still, she found those openings, unlike before. She could feel when his hold wasn't tight enough and duck under his arm. She could throw him off balance if she was fast enough. She'd never felt so safe in her life. Whether she could put her skills to use in a real situation or not was a different story, but mentally, it gave her great comfort. So, after a brief discussion with Coil and her father, Zelda decided it was time to thank Link. Zelda woke up much earlier than usual, grabbing several things from her room and shoving them into a travel bag. She packed a notebook and everything else she might need for her short adventure. Then, she grabbed a cloak for the wind, tied it around her neck, and hurried down to the training yard. He wasn't there yet. She didn't think he would be. The sun was barely up, but he was always there before her, so she wanted to make sure. Dropping her bag off at the nearby stables first, she circled around and continued on to the soldiers' barracks. Unsure if she should just barge in, she carefully knocked on the door instead. No one answered, and for the first time, she realized she'd never been inside here. The door handle was unlocked and turned with ease, so she creaked it open a hair and stuck her head inside. The room was lively considering the early morning. The main room was a dining area with a large table and some seats around the edge of the room, and several of the places were filled with fully dressed knights. She didn't want to intrude, so when she caught someone's attention, she waved them over. The moment he arrived, he bowed.
Princess? What can I do for you?
Oh, no need for that. I was just wondering if you knew whether Link was here.
Yes, Your Majesty. He was out here earlier. I believe he's in his room now. Would you like me to bring him to you?
Zelda was about to say
please.
yes, but today was a day of surprises.
Be honest. Would it be terribly inappropriate if I were to go fetch him myself? Would I be invading anyone's space?
No, not at all. Come, I'll bring you.
The room fell silent. There had to be about a dozen men staring in disbelief at her, one of which was Coil. Despite his shock to see her, he gave her an encouraging smile that she eagerly returned before she was led down a hall. The man stopped at the door and banged, calling Link's name before stepping back. The door swung open, and Link stood before them, tired-eyed and groggy until his eyes landed on Zelda.
Hello, Link.
His mouth fell, and he looked between Zelda and the knight who'd brought her.
What? What's going on? Are you alright?
She leaned against the doorframe, comfortable in her proximity to Link. From the way Link's eyes were going from her to the man rapidly, she imagined something must have looked suspicious.
I'm fine. I wanted to talk to you about something. Would you indulge me a few minutes of your time?
Link pointed in the direction of the training yard, still shuddering. But finally, he managed to clear his throat, and with a polite nod of his head, dismissed the other man. Once the footsteps faded away, Zelda spoke.
May I come in?
Yeah.
He moved aside, watching her curiously.
We still have plenty of time until training, you know.
She looked him over before looking at the room. He was in an extremely loose, long-sleeved shirt, frayed hems and holes in the bottom and along the elbows, and baggy pants. While he certainly could go out looking like this, it was too misplaced on him. There was a natural ease and even a formality about the way Link dressed daily that had her scoff at the idea that he'd ever willingly run around in public in such a bedraggled state.
Is this what you sleep in?
She lightly touched the bunched-up bottom of his shirt. She had pinned him with his back flush against the wall simply through the look she was giving him.
Yes?
How articulate of him.
Interesting.
Is it?
She smiled coyly before taking a look around. There were bunk beds lining almost every ounce of wall space so that 5 soldiers could share one room. Under one bunk was a missing mattress, and several bins in its place, each slightly different, and each with their names on it. There were 2 dressers with multiple drawers, but again, there were letters to, Zelda assumed, denote who the contents belonged to. Other than that, the room was cold and boring.
Is this where you live?
When I'm stationed here at the castle, yes. Better than a bedroll in the grass.
She sat down, listening to the springs in the mattress creak.
Oh, Goddess, how do you sleep here?
That's not mine.
He pointed to the one above, and Zelda grinned mischievously at him as she grabbed the ladder, her eyes asking for silent permission, and he chuckled, nodding. She hopped up and rolled into place, immediately recognizing the distinct scent of Link on the pillows. Not that she was gonna say that. Rolling onto her side, she grimaced and pulled the pillow closer.
I prefer my bed.
Why do you think I almost always fall asleep there after training?
Laziness.
While Zelda tested out his mattress from different angles, Link's blue eyes drank her in. She wasn't looking, but she was in his bed, and he had a clear view of her, which was almost to his detriment. When she turned back around to him, she caught the borderline hungry look in his eyes and felt herself warm up. She liked that look a bit too much. She attempted to continue on, trying to cover her telltale signs of attraction by leaning on her arms.
So, my question. I was wondering if, instead of training, we play hooky today. I already have a plan, if you're willing.
Link moved closer, and she lost sight of his lower half, forcing her focus onto his intense eyes. She could still see him working to compose himself, and she wondered if he could see her doing the same.
I'll get in trouble if I'm found off the castle grounds, especially if I steal you for an adventure.
Well then, it's a good thing I've already gotten permission from my father for this. But only if you're willing to be surprised, because I'm not telling you where the adventure is to.
Link rested his arm beside hers, their faces close as he narrowed his eyes on her, trying to read something from them. She kept them innocently blank. Both struggled. Closeness was never an issue per se. They were constantly on top of one another for training. But if either stretched their necks, they could reach the other's lips. Overwhelmed by just the aroma of a fresh wash and soaps that the other brought with them, it was a long moment before Link could find words again.
How long will we be gone? I need to get someone to take my shift
I already spoke to Coyle about it. He's taking care of arranging your shifts, if you agree.
Link chuckled, impressed and confused all at once.
You thought this out? This isn't a whim.
I did.
Link found himself nodding quickly at that information.
Okay. Let's go on this adventure of yours.
Zelda beamed and patted Link's arm before ungracefully rolling out of his bed, landing with a thud on her feet, breaking any trance she was in from his proximity with her clumsiness. She pushed her hair back and let out a breath.
I think I'm going to requisition all of you new beds. If it weren't inappropriate, I'd just let you stay in my room. The antechamber has a very nice bed for any personal guard I might need close by.
She said it with such a casual tone that Link almost didn't understand the words past "stay in my room." Instead of a proper answer, he latched on to the only other words he heard.
Yes, highly inappropriate.
Smirking, she gestured to the closet.
Pack a bag, okay? With clothes.
I always get so nervous when you command me to do odd things like this. How long are we going to be at wherever?
You'll know more later. I'm going to go wait outside. I'm afraid they might gossip if I'm in here too long.
Link scoffed and crossed the room to one of the drawers labeled L.
You being here at all will cause gossip. 10 Rupee says if you leave now or if you stayed for a bit, because you were smiling when you came in, some of them probably think we're doing, sordid activities in here. One of those idiots will walk by to see if they can hear anything. Wait for it. The rest aren't as stupid as to think we'd actually have a rendezvous in a common bunk room in the middle of the packed barracks. But there's always the one.
Your knights sound an awful lot like my ladies.
Zelda leaned on the far wall and crossed her arms, entertained as she watched him pull clothes out that he tossed into a satchel until the telltale sounds of footsteps echoed through the hall. He stopped and smiled, and they both waited. The footsteps slowed, and soon, a head was peeking into the open doorway. Wide, terrified, caught eyes met theirs. Link tossed the bag onto his bed and snorted.
I just wanted to see if the princess wanted, a glass of water.
Zelda smiled beautifully. It was a trained smile, but mixed with genuine humor.
I'm afraid I was just leaving, but thank you so much.
The man hurried away, and Zelda pulled her cloak open, digging her hand into a hidden pocket before holding out 2 blue rupees to Link.
You win.
Zelda enjoyed the peace of the ride with Link as they traveled. The wide expanse of Hyrule Field kept her attention as if she hadn't seen it before. A flock of birds flew past her head, and she realized just how much she'd missed being this far away from home without her destination being a holy spring. She'd have to go back to them soon. The pit such a thought left in her stomach made her sicker. But Link kept her entertained in ways she never thought possible. It started when they left the barracks. Somehow, his choice of clothing had been endearing, and she playfully scoffed at him.
You're not wearing that.
He'd glanced down at his knight's armor with confusion. It was what he always wore out of the castle.
Why not?
She'd simply pushed him back towards the barracks with the command to wear comfortable clothes. She could hear the men inside razzing on Link, and even she blushed at some of their comments before she hurried away to clear her pinkening cheeks. When he'd finally returned, she could see his attempt to compromise. He wore a light chainmail under a simple blue tunic with a leather chest plate and belts to hold his gear. His trousers and boots were made for comfort while riding, and he loosened his hair from its ponytail so it wasn't nearly as tight on his head. Her eyes were drawn to the earrings he always wore, but that she'd occasionally miss because of the hair in his face after training, casting most of it loose to frame his face and hide his ears. There was a light hooded cloak around his shoulders with an elaborate symbol etched into it that she didn't recognize. She'd been struck that she'd never seen him so casual before. It was either his work clothes or his training clothes. And admittedly, she liked this look on him. When they'd set out again, Link unwittingly entertained her some more for the entirety of the day. The ride was long, and they took it slowly. The moment they had left the castle gates, Link's river of questions had begun to flow.
Are we going to Mabe Village? Or maybe to some ruins you found this time? Or are you taking me to the ranch?
When they passed both without an answer from Zelda, his brow furrowed and he looked around the wide green expanse. His guesses ranged wildly each time.
You want to fish in Hylia River? We're going to Riverside Stable. Oh, okay. We're going to Lake Hylia. Okay, I guess we're going to Dea?
When the sun had set and Zelda told Link to pick a spot to camp out for the night, he finally stopped guessing. She watched him shift almost immediately from fun, playful, and teasing to stoic and serious, choosing a spot carefully. It needed shelter from any wind. It needed to be off the path so no bokoblins would stumble across them. It needed to be a good vantage point. Zelda pointed to the underside of an outcropping, and Link shook his head, riding along until she started prodding him.
Why not there?
He looked at her, almost like he'd forgotten she was actually there.
We can be easily flanked there. If someone comes up in the night, we'll never know.
Zelda pointed to another spot.
The wind will hit us too hard there.
It's only one night, Link. It doesn't need to be perfect.
It needs to be safe.
They continued that way, Zelda asking questions about random places, even ones that looked unsuitable, soaking in the answers and reveling in Link's knowledge about survival. After about 3 locations, he seemed to pick up on the fact that she wasn't just asking, she was listening, learning. So he started giving her more detailed answers, pointing, explaining. It was much like the day they'd gone over armor. She was not hesitant to admit that she liked Link's mind more than anything. Sure, she found him highly distracting physically, but she could talk about anything with him, and he'd find a way of engaging. She could ask him about odd niche things, and he somehow knew the answers. Offhandedly, she mentioned the calamity 10,000 years ago, and he'd come back with a fair response.
I like history. Is it stereotypical of me to say I really like military history?
Zelda giggled, following him to a concave spot under an outcropping she already knew would be perfect.
For a soldier? Yes. You're so stereotypical, Link.
He pointed to the section he was leading her towards.
See how the sides almost make a choke point? It's a big one, but we can't be picky.
Can't be picky. You've been nothing but.
Well, you have a tent or no?
Of course I do. I came prepared.
With that, she dismounted from her horse and pulled several things from her saddlebag. Link followed suit, scratching his mare's neck before helping her unfold it.
Want me to do the tent?
No. You do the fire. I can set up a tent, but I don't know how to make a fire without a flint stone like at the castle.
I do.
I figured. Show off.
Link laughed, already grabbing large branches off the ground.
Me? You have literally built pieces of ancient tech. You'll have the tent done so much faster than I'll have the fire.
Is that a race?
Link smirked.
If you want it to be.
It wasn't much of one. Link was still stoking the fire by the time Zelda had finished, a loss he accepted gracefully. So she sat beside him and watched, taking mental note of every move he made until he got the sparks and blew the flame to life. With a thoughtful hum, he pushed himself back up and set his things aside.
I never really got that. Why blowing on a fire will bring it to life? It's not the same for candles.
Well, a fire needs heat, fuel, and oxygen to burn. You're giving it the oxygen. And a candle is often blown with too much force in an attempt to put it out, rather than the gentle breeze you use to stoke the fire.
Link's mouth tilted into a handsome grin.
Tell me more.
No.
He laughed and the fire was roaring. Zelda went into the tent, only to come back out a few moments later.
Are you coming inside?
No, I'd rather keep an eye out.
Zelda huffed, annoyed as she sat beside him.
I set up that tent and everything.
Yes, well, I'm not telling you not to use it.
If you're staying awake, so am I.
Link grinned, betting she wouldn't make it the full hour. She fell asleep 2 hours later, her head against his shoulder. He never wanted to move. Nope, never again. But she nearly fell over, tilting backwards as she slept, and Link caught her. Her eyes flung open, and he guided her to move to sit between his legs, to rest her back against his chest. Groggily, she did so, getting comfortable.
I'm sorry I dozed.
Link shushed her, running a hand through her hair before he could stop himself, lingering far too long on her skin.
Go to sleep, princess. I've got this. I've got you. Just sleep.
Link,
Yeah?
don't let me get eaten by wolfos.
He chuckled, running another hand through her hair, far too affectionately to be considered a comforting gesture.
I promise. I won't.
She woke up the next morning a bit stiff, but she was in the tent, in her bedroll. Getting up, she moved and stuck her head out of the tent flap, glad to see him looking fairly awake, despite his night.
Link, you put me in the tent.
You were so much more comfortable after I did. Don't be bitter.
Bitter?
Bitter.
Yawning, Zelda kicked Link lightly with the tip of her boot before turning to dismantle their things.
There. That's my payback.
Once they were saddled again and back on the road, Link began his relentless questioning again.
Princess, where are we going? Are we going to Kakariko? Gopanga? A shrine? A temple? Where are we going?
He'd quieted down just before the turn to Kakariko, sitting in smug satisfaction and taking the bridge. Zelda had instead guided her horse the other way.
Nope. Wrong way.
What?
He looked down the path as though it just told him a horrible secret.
Come on.
They kept riding on, cliffs and hills closing in on them until they were met by more lakes and plateaus of open space.
Oh. We're going to the coast.
When they passed Ginner Woods and the road that led to the sea, there was only one place left that she could possibly be going, and it was well within eyesight. He rode in front of Zelda to stop her.
Hateno?
Yes.
Why?
He looked over his shoulder, and then back to her several times before settling on her eyes.
You deserve to see your family. You deserved a trip home.
She watched the panic in his face become more apparent.
How long has it been?
He ran his hands over his face and hopped off his horse so he could pace. Zelda followed suit, watching him carefully. Coil had prepared her for this reaction, but had told her that Link often spoke wistfully about the idea of returning for a trip home, but being unable to.
2 years.
That's long.
She had said that more to herself, but he nodded and stared at the village.
Do you need a moment?
No. How long am I allowed to stay?
We coordinated for you to have the weekend off. I wasn't sure if you'd want longer. Actually, I wasn't entirely sure if you'd appreciate this surprise at all.
Link spun on his heels and stared at her. She was surprised to see unfallen tears welled up and waiting to spill, but he didn't let them. Instead, he crossed the distance to her and pulled her into his arms, wrapping both of his tightly around her back so he could keep her close. After a second, she did the same, leaning her cheek into his shoulder.
Thank you, Princess.
His hand slid down her back before he let her go, a far cry from the hugs they'd started with. Zelda gestured to Hateno.
There's a Sheikah guard waiting for us so that they can report to my father that you made it safe.
You're not coming?
No, the Sheikah guard is going to return me to the palace. I was just along for the ride. This trip is for you, not me.
You don't want to see Hateno? I could show you around. Well, maybe not since you're the princess. But there are hidden gems I could take you to. A lake in the cliffs below my house. They're secluded. No one would even notice you there. Or you just don't want to?
No, I do. I very much so do. But I'm a distraction. When I'm around, you can't enjoy yourself because you have to be my guard. And this is a vacation for you.
Princess.
He stepped forward with his hand out before stopping himself.
I enjoy myself because you're around. I would be honored if you stayed.
Wordlessly, Zelda looked between Link and the castle in the distance, not that she could see it.
Are you sure? You don't need to be so polite on my account.
I'm more than positive, Princess.
As long as you're okay with it. You'd have to be my personal knight, you know? I have no one else here. It's not a vacation when you're with me. It's a job. You're truly okay with that?
Link smiled and started walking up the hill towards the welcoming gates.
Hateno has quite a few protective wards. The lab on the hill makes them, so we got a decent supply, despite not being a Sheikah village. I wasn't planning to let anything happen to you anyway, but if something were to happen, they might be scared of you and your newfound skill.
Chuckling, Zelda tightened her grip on the reins in her hand.
Oh yes, they'll be downright terrified at my ability to run.
If we weren't in public, I'd have tested your reflexes just now.
Is that so?
Link laughed to himself as they made their way to the Sheikah standing at the gate to the town. Zelda stepped forward.
Hello. Please let my father know that Link and I arrived safely, and that I would like to familiarize myself with towns that are not just Castletown. So I will be remaining here under his guard. Tell him the opportunity is perfect given Link's visit, and I will rarely get another opportunity like this.
How long should I tell His Highness you will be away, Your Majesty?
Zelda's eyes flicked to Link, unsure.
I can escort you back when I return if you want.
Nodding, Zelda turned back to the Sheikah.
Let's go with that as the plan for now. Should anything happen, I'll be sure to call on you.
The Sheikah didn't look pleased, and certainly didn't appear to want to be the messenger of this news, but they bowed and set off after giving Link an appraising look.
You don't have to stay at all, you know. I made it sound like I was pressuring you to stay, but I just want you to be...
No, Link, I meant what I said. I'm so rarely allowed out this far unless it's with half an army of guards to go to the springs. I'm excited to see everything you can show me, actually. Though, I do want to stay anonymous to most of the village, if possible.
Link glanced into the town, and then back to Zelda.
My family will figure it out. My father worked in the castle.
I trust them if you do.
Yes, but the other villagers?
Taking a few steps into Link's space, Zelda began untying the cloak around Link's neck, cutting off his sentence. She smirked as she watched his throat bob when he swallowed hard. Her finger brushed his skin as she undid the clasp. It wasn't the first time she'd touched his skin, not even his throat, but certainly the first time while they weren't training. The way his wary, hooded eyes watched her was far from the vigilance of a trainer or an opponent. He stiffened entirely, and she wondered what made him nearly stop breathing, or if, by some chance, it could have been her. When the cloak was off of him, she twirled it around over her shoulders and quickly fastened it, pulling the hood up. She smiled triumphantly, proud of her disguise, and held her arms out to present herself to Link.
Well,
Why did you take my cloak?
so you can go home without people fussing over me. This is my disguise.
A small smile toyed at his lips this time, and he playfully tugged the hood down over her eyes.
Were you ever this nice to your other personal guards? Because you don't have to go this far for me.
She followed Link back to their horses and trotted beside his, letting him lead on to his house.
I've only ever had a few personal guards permanently assigned to me. Normally, I'm surrounded by every knight in Hyrule. But before we were training, I used to be accompanied most often by Sir Krautalis of the Solari Plains. Did you know him?
Fancy title for a fancy guy. I knew him. Why'd they move him if he was your guard?
Technically, he wasn't moved. Just like you're not, even though you're with me when we leave the castle. Or you are allowed to be my sole guard. You don't have a title for it. So, my father moved him to aid the Rita warriors with the threats in the snowfield. He's a very accomplished archer. It's been months since he's been back. I've been assured he's alive, but it would be nice to see him return for a while.
You two were close?
Zelda ducked her head as they passed a villager on their way to a bridge.
We were. It may seem shallow of me, but it's so nice to have guards my age to talk to. I had a lot in common with Crow. It's harder with the older guards. Like, one of my other frequent guards is Julius. And, goddess, I love him, but he's so serious and old-fashioned. And then Giles just reminds me of my grandfather. And I love my grandfather, I do. But I don't want to talk to him all day.
And me?
She gave him a playfully scrutinizing look.
I'm still deciding.
Months later?
You're all right, I guess.
Thanks, princess.
Zelda beamed and followed him over another bridge, where there was only one house set on a decent amount of property, including a barn, a lake, fruit trees, and unused land.
Is this you?
It is. It looks like they've cleaned it up a little since I was last here.
He stopped suddenly halfway across the bridge.
Link?
What if they're angry with me for not visiting? The ride was long, but not impossible.
They won't be. They'll just be glad you're here now.
Dismounting, he pulled the reins the rest of the way, and Zelda followed suit. When he stopped in front of the door, she took the reins from him and stepped back, watching him gather his courage. It was strange. Link didn't seem like the kind of person who would be even remotely intimidated by something as simple as a trip home. She wondered if there was more to the story that he hadn't told her. His shoulders rose and fell dramatically before he finally knocked on the door. There was muffled shouting inside, and Zelda heard something like, "Can't get the door," though she wasn't entirely positive. Something fell over, and the door swung open.
Yes.
The blonde woman who opened the door looked just like Link, but younger. She was in her late teens, and her blue eyes widened as she looked at him in front of her.
Link?
Yeah.
Her face scrunched together, lip shaking, and she threw herself into Link's arms. He caught her easily, his hand soothingly against her double-braided blonde hair. Link leaned into her and kissed her cheek before laughing.
This is the only hug I'll be expecting from you.
She pulled away, eyes red with tears, and smacked Link in the shoulder.
2 years! Stupid! You only deserve one hug.
I miss you too.
Mom! Dad! Come here, now!
She had shouted over her shoulder into the house before crossing her arms. Link made a face.
Don't, Errol. I can go get them.
Errol shifted so she blocked Link's way into the house. Then, her eyes finally darted to Zelda. Curious, but no signs of recognition flashed in them as she returned her attention to her brother.
Do you have news for us? Is that why you're here?
She jerked her head in Zelda's direction to emphasize her point. Link snorted.
Yeah, she's big news.
Who was it?
Heavy footsteps could be heard thudding towards the door. Zelda tried to crane her neck, but she didn't need to. An older man and woman appeared dumbstruck in the doorway.
Hi.
Goddess, is this a vision?
She had brown eyes and light brown hair, but there was no mistaking that this was Link's mother. Or Zelda supposed it could have been an aunt or something, but Errol had called for their parents. His mother stumbled out the door and into Link's arms, sobbing tears of joy as she ran her hands through his hair several times. A man stepped out, and Zelda saw the reason why the steps had been so loud. Link's father was handsome, and like his mother, had very clearly gifted half his genetics to his children. His hair was graying, but it looked like it was the source of the blonde in the family. Interestingly, despite both Link and Errol having blue eyes, both their parents had brown. But that wasn't his most prominent feature. With his gray hair longer than Link's and pulled back into a low ponytail, it offered her a perfect view of a long burn scar that marred the entire side of his neck and up his jaw, healed and old, but permanent and even a little painful looking. But worse than that was the leg he was missing and the crutch he kept under his arm just to walk. With each step, his face contorted with effort and a harsh breath that accompanied it. But still, he joined Link in a welcoming embrace that Link positively melted into. Zelda could see him sagging into them both with a peaceful, blissful look on his face. His mouth moved, but Zelda couldn't hear his words. They weren't for her anyway. Finally, his father noticed Zelda.
Link?
Link followed his questioning gaze and stepped away from his parents to return to Zelda. He mouthed thank you as he walked toward her, and he took the reins before stepping back.
Oh, well, I didn't come alone.
It is a pleasure and honor to meet you all.
Zelda had attempted to disguise her royal voice, but it slipped out anyway. Greetings to her always sounded forced.
Is this a friend or a friend?
Link snorted again, and Zelda pushed her hood off her golden hair.
Just a friend.
Oh, good to meet you then.
Goddess above, son.
Link's father bent at the waist. Link's mother followed suit, though she dropped to her knee. Errol looked confused, but copied her parents.
No. Please don't. I'm truly just here with Link as a friend, and this is your house.
What am I missing?
She looked at Link, her eyes demanding an explanation. He mimed a crown on his head and gestured to Zelda. Errol's mouth dropped, looking between her brother and Zelda.
No way.
It's true. She wanted to visit.
Errol shoved Link and lowered her voice, though it wasn't low enough to actually hide her words from anyone.
You jerk! You didn't give us a warning? I need to clean my room! And the kitchen has dishes in the sink! Goddess!
Forget that I'm the one visiting. You only want to clean the house for the princess.
You grew up in our messy kitchen. I don't care about you.
Zelda smiled at him as he nudged Errol, pulling her back into a relieved hug. Though Errol looked a little uncomfortable, she soon melted into his arms and returned it. His parents looked like they were itching to speak to him, but also seemed conflicted by Zelda's presence. She figured the best way to give everyone what they wanted was to busy herself. Plus, Link looked awkward with the horses in one hand and Errol in the other. Zelda strode over to him and placed a hand lightly on his back to get his attention. He stiffened at her touch and spun to her with surprised eyes, which she imagined was because he'd gotten used to her treating him like an opponent rather than a friend, obviously.
Give me the reins.
She smiled and held out her hand, waiting.
This is your homecoming, not mine.
Hesitantly, he dropped the leather into her palm.
Thank you.
She smiled and nodded, but felt his fingers curl around her hand before she could move away. His eyes were more focused, more intense.
Thank you.
She could feel how much he meant it, from the weight in his words to the grip on her hand. It felt like no one had ever done a kind deed for him before. Such was the depth of his gratitude. Fighting back her grin, she simply gestured towards his parents with her chin and returned her attention to the horses, listening to the excited laughter over shoulder with overwhelming satisfaction. Link was practically glowing as his family fawned over him, and Zelda bit her lip and watched with unabashed excitement for him. And it hit her fast and hard that she'd go through a hell of a lot more than this to see that smile on his face again.